My name's John, and I've been ice fishing in the Alaskan backcountry for over a decade. Me and my buddy Matt, we're not rookies. We know how to read the ice, the weather, the way the fish move under the surface. But that day on Lake Virgelmer, none of that mattered. It was late January, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones no matter how many layers you wear. The usual quiet of the place was heavier, like the lake was holding its breath. We just set up our gear when Matt grinned and elbowed me, pointing at his line. "Dude, this is a monster," he whispered. Then the ice groaned, not a normal crack, but a deep, wet sound like something pressed up from underneath. The next few seconds were a blur. The ice split open like a zipper under Matt's boots, and he dropped straight into the black water. I lunged, grabbing his parka hood before the current could suck him under. He came up gasping, his face blue white, and I dragged him onto solid ice. That's when we saw it. Beneath the shattered hole, something moved, a shadow way too big to be a fish, gliding just under the surface. Then came the scritch-scratch of claws dragging against the ice, slow at first, then frantic. The bubbles rising around us weren't from Matt's flailing. They were coming from further down. Like whatever that thing was, it was digging its way up, but we didn't stick around to see what it wanted. Matt was shaking so hard his teeth chattered, but we both knew. Run. We bolted for the shore, our boots slipping on the ice, every crack beneath us making my heart jackhammer. Halfway to the truck, I risked a glance back. The hole we'd left behind was frozen over. Not like normal ice reforming, but sealed like something had smoothed it shut from below. Matt saw it too. He didn't say a word, just yanked the truck door open and fumbled with the keys. The engine roared to life, but as we peeled out, I swear I saw something shift under the ice near the shore, a long, dark ripple, following us. Back at our cabin, we barricaded the door like idiots, like that would matter. Matt kept muttering about trout don't do that between gulps of whiskey. I tried to laugh it off, but my hands wouldn't stop trembling. That's when we heard it. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Footsteps on the frozen lake, right outside. Too heavy to be an animal, too deliberate. We killed the lights and peered through the window. The moon lit up the ice, and for a second, nothing. Then movement. Not on the ice, under it. Something huge and jagged, drifting just beneath the surface, tracing slow circles around the cabin. The footsteps stopped. The thing under the ice stopped. Then softly something knocked. 3 times, like it knew we were listening. The whiskey bottle slipped from Matt's grip and hit the floor with a thud. Neither of us moved. The knocking came again, 3 slow raps like bones tapping glass. Then silence. My breath fogged the window as I pressed closer, squinting. The ice outside was wrinkling, not cracking, not melting, rippling like something was pushing up against it from below. A jagged black line split the surface, creeping toward the cabin. Matt grabbed my arm, his nails digging in. "It's testing the shore ice," he whispered. "It knows it's thinner here." Just then, the wood stove in the corner hissed. Not the normal settling noise, but a wet, guttural sound, like steam forcing its way through a clogged pipe. The air smelled suddenly rancid, like old meat and frozen mud. We bolted for the back door, just as the front window splintered. Not from impact, from cold. Frost spiderwebbed across the glass in seconds, and behind it, something pressed. A shape. Long fingers, too many knuckles splayed against the pane. The wood stove erupted in a geyser of black sludge, dousing the room in stinking, freezing filth. Matt screamed and wrenched the back door open. Outside, the night was dead quiet. Too quiet. No wind, no animals, just the lake and the ice. It was moving, not cracking, not shifting, breathing. Rising and falling in slow, uneven swells like something massive was trapped beneath it, heaving. We ran for the trees, but the snow grabbed at our boots, thick and sucking, as if the ground itself didn't want us to leave. The trees closed in around us like a cage, their branches sagging under thick layers of frost. Every step felt wrong. Too loud, too slow, like the forest itself was holding its breath. Matt was wheezing beside me, his breath coming out in ragged white puffs. "We need to get to the road," he gasped, but the road was miles away, and the snow was falling heavier now, blurring everything into a swirling white nightmare. Then I heard again, that same crunch, crunch, crunch of footsteps, only this time they weren't behind us. They were above us. I looked up, and my stomach dropped. The branches weren't just weighed down by ice. Something was perched in them, long, spindly limbs folded at impossible angles, its body a shadow darker than the night. It didn't move. It didn't have to. It was waiting, Matt froze, his eyes locked onto the thing in the trees. A low, guttural sound bubbled up from his throat. Not fear, not words, but something primal. The creature's head tilted, slow and deliberate, and that's when I saw its face. Or what should have been its face. There were no eyes, no mouth, just a smooth, frozen mass cracked down the middle like old porcelain. Then the cracks split open, and a sound poured out. Not a scream, not a growl, but a distorted, shuddering voice, stitching together words from the echoes of our own panicked breaths. John, it hissed, and my blood turned to ice. It knew my name. It had been listening. Matt grabbed my arm, his grip bruising. Don't answer it, he whispered, but it was too late. The thing unfolded itself from the branches, its joints popping like snapping ice, and dropped silently into the snow between us and the path home. The creature took a step forward, its elongated limbs sinking deep into the snow without a sound. The air around it warped, like heat rising off asphalt in summer. Except this was Alaska in dead winter, and the distortion wasn't heat. It was wrongness. Matt stumbled back, his boot catching on a root, and the thing's head snapped toward him with a crackling sound, like ice breaking under pressure. I wanted to move, to scream, to do anything, but my legs were locked in place. That's when I noticed the snowflakes. They weren't falling anymore. They were hovering, suspended in the air around the creature, trembling like they were afraid to touch it. A whisper slithered into my ear, though its frozen mask never moved. You shouldn't have come back. Matt lunged, not away, but at it, swinging a broken branch like a club. The wood passed straight through the creature's torso like it was made of smoke, and for a heartbeat, I thought we had a chance. Then the branch shattered, exploding into 1,000 splinters of blackened ice. The creature's hand lashed out, fingers elongating like icicles, and closed around Matt's throat. His scream choked off into a wet gurgle as frost spread across his skin, crawling up his cheeks in jagged patterns. I screamed his name, but the sound died in my throat as the creature's head swiveled back toward me. The crack in its mask widened, and the voice that came out was no longer a distorted mimicry. It was Matt's. John, it crooned, you're next. I turned and ran, my boots punching through the snow like it was quicksand. Behind me, I heard Matt, or what was left of him, gasping, his voice twisting into something that wasn't human anymore. The trees blurred past, their branches clawing at my jacket as if trying to slow me down. Then I saw it, the lake. It shouldn't have been there, we'd run away from it, but there it was, smooth and black under the moonlight, waiting. The ice was pristine, unbroken, as if the hole we'd fallen through had never existed. A gust of wind howled across the surface, and for a second, I thought I saw shapes moving beneath it. Dozens of them, long and sinuous, circling like sharks. The creature's voice echoed in my skull, no longer needing air to reach me. You were always ours. I don't remember hitting the ice. One moment I was standing on the shore, the next I was on my knees, my hands pressed against the frozen surface. My reflection stared back, wide-eyed and terrified, until it smiled. Then the ice gave way. The water wasn't cold. It wasn't water at all. It was darkness, thick and hungry, pulling me down into a place where the lake wasn't a lake anymore, but something alive, something ancient. The last thing I saw before the black swallowed me whole was the creature standing on the shore, its mask now smooth and unbroken. It lifted a hand in farewell, or maybe welcome. Now I'm here, wherever here is. The ice above me is endless, and the things below are always moving. Sometimes when I press my hand against the underside, I see faces peering down. Fishermen, hikers, people who don't know yet, people like you. My name's Mark, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought moving to this apartment near the city canal was the best decision I'd ever made. After years of suffocating in downtown noise, the quiet hum of the water at dawn felt like a miracle. Every morning, I'd grab my rod, a thermos of black coffee, and head to the same spot, a secluded stretch where the canal curves under an old iron bridge. The water was always still there like glass, and the fish bit easy. It was my little slice of peace. Until I caught that fish. It was a Tuesday, just after sunrise, when I felt the tug, stronger than usual. At first, I thought I'd hooked a piece of debris, but then the line jerked violently. When I finally reeled it in, my stomach dropped. The thing was wrong, about the size of a base, but its scales weren't just iridescent. They pulsed under the sunlight, shifting between silver and a sickly, bruised purple. Its eyes were too large, almost human, and its mouth kept twitching like it was trying to speak. But the worst part? The symbols, carved deep into its flesh like jagged runes, were markings that didn't look man-made. They glowed faintly when I tilted it toward the light that I should have thrown it back. That's what my gut screamed at me. But curiosity, or maybe something darker, made me stuff it into my cooler. The whole walk home, the fish kept thumping against the lid as if refusing to die. Back in my tiny kitchen, I laid it on the cutting board, my hands shaking. The symbols weren't just on a few scales. They covered its entire body, swirling like a language. When I pressed my finger against one, the flesh beneath sizzled, and I swear I heard a whisper, faint as radio static. That's when I noticed the smell. Not the usual fishy odor, but something metallic, like blood and burnt wiring. I grabbed my phone to take a picture, but the screen glitched, distorting the image into jagged pixels. That night, I dreamed of the canal. In the dream, I was standing knee-deep in the water, but it wasn't water. It was thick, black, and clinging like oil. Shapes moved beneath the surface, long and sinuous, brushing against my legs. I woke up gasping, my sheets soaked with sweat. That's when my phone buzzed. No caller ID, just a text with a single attachment. A photo of me from that morning, crouched by the canal, holding the fish. The angle was all wrong. It was taken from inside the water, looking up. The timestamp read 6:17 a.m. But I've been alone, completely alone. The message underneath made my blood freeze. We've been waiting. I spent the next hour tearing my apartment apart, checking windows, doors, any way someone could have been watching me. Nothing. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I deleted the photo, but 5 minutes later, it reappeared in my gallery, this time with a new message. You can't unsee us now. I threw my phone across the room like it was burning me. That's when I noticed the shadows outside my window. The canal was only about 50 feet away, and the streetlights cast long, wavering reflections on the water. But the shadows weren't right. They were too tall, too still, standing at the edge of the bank where I usually fished. And they were facing me that I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it, a wet, slithering sound like something dragging itself up the concrete embankment outside. By dawn, I was exhausted but desperate for answers. I went back to the canal, rod in hand like some stupid attempt at normalcy. The water was unnaturally calm, no ripples, no birds, just silence. Then I saw them, the fish, dozens of them, floating belly up near the shore, their scales marked with the same symbols. And worse, their eyes were gone. Not eaten, not rotted. Scooped out, as if something had reached in and taken them. That's when I felt it, the same tug on my line. But I wasn't holding it. The rod was leaning against the railing, untouched. I grabbed my rod and nearly tripped backward as the line went taut on its own, the reel spinning wildly like something massive had taken the bait. The canal's surface erupted, not with a fish, but with a hand. Pale, bloated, fingers too long and webbed, clutching the line like it was pulling me in. I dropped the rod and ran, but the sound followed me, wet slaps against concrete, like footsteps keeping pace just out of sight. When I dared to glance back, the rod was gone. Only the fish remained, their hollow eye sockets staring at the sky. I didn't stop running until I was back inside, deadbolting the door like it could save me. My reflection in the microwave door made me freeze. Behind me, in the dim apartment, something dark and slick crouched in the corner, just for a second before vanishing. That night, the knocking started. Not at the door, but the windows, rhythmic and patient. Tap, 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 like someone testing the glass. I barricaded myself in the bathroom, phone in hand, but the signal was dead. The air smelled like the canal, rotting weeds, and that same metallic tang from the fish. When I closed my eyes, the whispers came back, this time clearer. You took the first one. Now we take you. I screamed at them to leave me alone, and for a second, the knocking stopped. Then the bathroom light flickered, and the symbols from the fish's scales appeared on the mirror, etched in condensation. Not carved, breathing that I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a kitchen knife and swung the bathroom door open, ready to fight whatever was out there, but the apartment was empty. Just the stale canal air hanging thick, and the tapping had moved to the walls now, like dozens of fingers drumming against the other side of the drywall. Then I saw the water. A dark puddle was spreading from under the sink, but when I touched it, my fingers came back clean. No, not water or shadow. It rippled against the linoleum like something was about to surface. My phone suddenly buzzed in my hand, lighting up with another photo. Me, asleep in bed, taken from inside the room. The timestamp was for tonight. "We're in," the message read. That's when I realized the thing in the corner earlier hadn't vanished. It had just moved where I couldn't see it, that I bolted for the front door, but the knob wouldn't turn. Not stuck, held. From the other side, something was gripping it tight, shaking it gently like it was laughing at me. The symbols on the mirror were spreading now, crawling up the walls in jagged lines, glowing faintly green. I did the only thing left. I smashed the bathroom window with my elbow and hauled myself out, glass shredding my arms. The alley behind my building was pitch black, but I could hear the canal water churning nearby, sloshing over the banks like something big was wading toward shore. I didn't look back. I just ran, barefoot and bleeding, until I hit the neon lights of the gas station 3 blocks away. The clerk took one look at me and called 911. The cops didn't believe me, of course. They chalked it up to a bad trip or lack of sleep, even as I babbled about the fish and the symbols and the thing in my apartment. I didn't go back, couldn't. I spent the night in a motel 20 miles away, scrubbing the cuts on my arms raw, half expecting to see those damned symbols appear in my own skin. But as I turned on the sink to wash my face, the water came out dark and reeking of the canal. That's when I understood they weren't tied to the place. They were tied to me. The reflection in the motel mirror wasn't mine anymore. Its eyes were hollowed out, just like the fish, and its mouth moved with words I couldn't hear. I smashed the mirror with my fist, and for a second, just a second, I heard a hiss of static. "You should have thrown it back." I never fished again. I moved states, changed my number, even got rid of the clothes I wore that day. The paranoia faded, but sometimes when I'm near a body of water, any water, I see them. Shapes just beneath the surface, too still, too aware. And if I stare too long, my phone buzzes with an old notification. The original photo of me by the canal, timestamp updating to today's date. The message never changes. We're still waiting. I don't reply. I've accepted that whatever I pulled up that day wasn't just a fish. It was an invitation, and sooner or later, they'll collect what's theirs. My name's David, and up until last winter, I'd have sworn I knew Silver Lake like the back of my hand. My dad took me ice fishing there as a kid, and for the past 8 years, I've done the same with my son, Nathan. It was our thing. Hot cocoa in thermoses, the quiet crunch of snow under our boots, the thrill of a tug on the line. But this year, something was off. The ice groaned under our feet in a way it never had before, like it was straining under weight it couldn't hold. The cold bit deeper too, sharp enough to make Nathan's teeth chatter even through his scarf. I almost called it quits right then. I wish we just drilled our holes when Nathan's line jerked hard. Too hard. At first, I grinned, thinking he'd hooked a monster pike. But then his pole bent nearly in half, and his mittens slipped on the reel. "Dad, help!" he yelped. I grabbed the line, expecting resistance, but what I felt wasn't a fish. It was a pull, deliberate and steady, like something was reeling us in. The ice creaked as Nathan skidded toward the hole, and I yanked him back, so hard we both fell. When I looked down, the line wasn't tangled in weeds. It was snarled in a rusted net, half frozen into the ice. And woven into the mesh were things that didn't belong. Yellowed bones, teeth, and, God help me, a skull, its hollow socket staring up at us like it had been waiting, that I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until my lungs burned. Nathan's fingers dug into my sleeve, his voice thin. "Dad, that's not a fish." The net twitched, though there was no wind. The symbols carved into its rusted weights weren't any language I knew. Jagged lines, spirals that made my eyes ache if I stared too long. And the smell? God, the smell hit us then, like wet rot, and something metallic thick enough to taste. I grabbed Nathan's arm, already backing toward the shore, but the ice cracked. Not under us, but around the hole, splintering in a perfect circle like something had bumped it from below we ran. Not the careful, spread-your-weight steps you learn for thin ice, but a blind sprint, snow whipping our faces. Halfway to the truck, Nathan tripped, and when I turned to haul him up, I saw it. The hole we'd left behind wasn't empty. Something breached the surface. Not a fish, not an animal, just a shape, black and slick like oil, curling over the ice for one heartbeat before sliding back under. Nathan sobbed, "It's following us." And that's when I heard it, a knock. Not from the hole, from beneath our feet. 3 slow, deliberate thuds, vibrating up through the ice like a fist testing a door that I didn't stop to think. I hauled Nathan onto my back like he was a little kid again, sprinting the last 100 yards to the truck. My keys slipped in my frozen fingers, and when I finally jammed them into the ignition, the engine groaned like it was fighting to turn over. Behind us, the ice moved. Not cracks, ripples like the lake was breathing. Nathan screamed, "Go, go," as the first fracture shot toward us, a jagged black line splitting the ice in two. The truck roared to life, tires spinning on snow, and I didn't look back until we hit the tree line. That's when I saw it. The hole we'd left behind wasn't just dark. It was full. Something massive shifted under the surface, stretching the ice upward like a membrane, though we didn't talk about it. Not that night. Not when the power flickered out as we ate dinner. Not when Nathan woke up screaming about knocks in his dreams. But 2 days later, I found the net again. Not at the lake. In our garage, draped over Nathan's bike like it had always been there. The bones were gone, but the symbols were fresh, glistening wet, and the stink of rot clung to everything. Worst of all, the skull was missing. That's when the knocking started inside the house. First in the walls, then under the floorboards. Always 3 slow, patient thuds. Knock, knock, knock. Like it was saying, "I'm coming to..." I tried to tell myself it was all in our heads, until Nathan started talking back to the knocking. I woke up at 3 a.m. to his voice, soft and sing-song, answering each knock, knock, knock with 3 taps of his own on the bedroom wall. When I threw his door open, he was sitting cross-legged on the floor, eyes glazed, fingertips bloody from rapping on the plaster. "It's teaching me," he whispered. That's when I noticed the symbols. Not just on the net anymore. Scratched into his desk, the window pane, even his skin, like he'd been etching them absent-mindedly for days. The air smelled like the lake. Rotting weeds, and something sweet underneath. Like decay trying to pass as perfume, I tore the house apart looking for answers. In the attic, I found my grandfather's old fishing journal. Buried between pages about trout and ice thickness was a single underlined passage. Silver Lake never gives back what it takes. Below it, a crude sketch of the same symbols now infesting my home. The next page was torn out, but not before someone had scribbled 2 words in frantic pencil. Bait stays. That night, I dreamed of the skull. Not submerged, not frozen, but grinning at me from Nathan's bed, its jaw unhinging to let out a wet, gurgling knock. I woke up to Nathan's hand on my shoulder. His pupils were blown black, his breath reeking of lake water. "It wants you to watch," he said that I couldn't take it anymore. The knocking, the symbols, the way Nathan's voice started sounding less like my son and more like something imitating him. I called Father Marin from St. Mary's. Not because I'm religious, but because the journal mentioned a priest who'd blessed the lake in 1923 after unsettling incidents. When I described the symbols, his breath hitched. "They're wards," he said, "old ones, meant to keep something trapped." He agreed to meet me at the lake at dawn, but warned me, "If it's followed you home, it's already claimed ground. You might have to give it something else." I didn't ask what he meant. I already knew. That night, I packed a duffel bag, salt, Grandpa's journal, and a hunting knife I'd hoped I'd never need. The lake was frozen solid when we arrived, but it didn't feel dead anymore. It felt waiting. Father Marin traced a cross in the snow, his Latin prayers steaming in the cold. Then the ice moaned. Not a crack, but a sound, low and hungry, like a stomach rumbling. Nathan clutched my hand, but his grip was too tight, his nails biting into my skin. "It's here," he whispered, except it wasn't Nathan's voice. Behind us, the net lay coiled on the ice, its symbols glowing faintly red, as if heated from within. The priest paled. "It's not a ghost. It's older, and it wants a trade." Before I could react, Nathan lunged forward, not toward the hole, toward the priest. His movements were all wrong, joints popping, his mouth unhinging too wide that I don't remember grabbing the knife. Just the thud as I drove it into the net, the scream that wasn't Nathan's tearing from his throat, and the ice splitting open beneath us. Black water surged up, pulling the net and the knife down into the dark. Nathan collapsed, gasping, his eyes human again. The lake went still, too still. No wind, no creaks, just the priest's shaky voice. "It's done. For now." We dragged Nathan to the truck, his body light as a hollow bone. In the rearview mirror, I saw it, one last ripple under the ice, circling the hole like a shark. But the net was gone. And the skull? I never found it. Nathan doesn't remember anything. The doctors called it temporary psychosis, blamed it on carbon monoxide or PTSD. But some nights, I hear it, 3 knocks on the front door, slow and smug. I don't answer. I know what happens when you let something in. The priest won't return my calls. Last week, I found a new symbol etched into our porch, a spiral half hidden under frost. I poured concrete over it. Tomorrow, we move to Arizona. No ducks, no ice, just heat and dust and silence. But earlier, while packing, Nathan paused by the window and said, "It's colder today." His breath fogged the glass. And for a second, I swear I saw the shape of a hand press against the other side, fingers splayed, before the frost swallowed it whole.